Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Watchman Podcast, your go-to source for everything related to safety and community at Rollins Middle School of Arts. And I am your host, Deputy Slusher. And I am here to shine a spotlight on the vibrant art showcases, thrilling sporting events, captivating performances of our amazing school and students. So join us as we celebrate creativity, foster connections, and build a stronger community together. Whether you're a student, parent, or passionate supporter of the arts, there is something here for everyone. So let's dive in and explore the heartbeat of Rollins Middle School. Welcome to the Watchman Podcast. Today's episode is about purpose, action, and what happens when someone chooses to step up instead of stepping back. I'm honored to introduce Frankie Staropoli, the founder of Beacons. What started in 2019 as a simple conversation at a father-daughter's dance turned into a movement. When Frankie heard that students needed mentors, especially young men, he didn't wait. Within a week, he had mentors committed. By the fall of 2019, Beacons was active and the impact was immediate. Even though the challenges of COVID, the mission never stopped. As doors reopened, Beacons grew, expanding into multiple schools, launching Leading Ladies for young women, and drawing mentors from across the community. Today, Beacons mentoring is in its 6th year, serving approximately 170 mentors across 21 school campuses in Dorchester District 2, with expansions into Berkeley County currently underway. This is more than a program, it's presence, it's consistency, it's adults choosing to invest in the next generation. Frankie, thank you for joining me on the Watchman today. I'm so excited to have you and dive into the Beacons, to the mentoring, and what it's all about. But I want to start the foundation and what the purpose was. I want to take you back to the beginning. And you didn't have a straight line path to success. How did those early years of uncertainty shape the man that you are today?
So when I was younger, in I'll say 7th grade, we moved down here from New Jersey, and I started 8th grade here. And, left a life we knew all too well and came into this area, which we frequented before. I have an uncle who lived in Somerville, so we used to come here for summer vacations. But my parents, we left a home, and then they started a brand new business, a restaurant. And several years later, they had to close it, and they lost everything. And, so we had to experience that newness, that honeymoon phase. And then it was all taken away. And we lived a few years, man, very tough, struggling, financially poor, hand-me-down clothes, all that. And
right.
So going through all that really humbles you and puts a lot of things in perspective at a very young age. And for me, it's not so far from a lot of the kids we're mentoring today. And so a lot of times hearing these stories, it kind of brings something back to home for me.
Right.
And I understand their struggles. I understand what they're enduring. And, it breaks my heart. So I can't help but want to help them.
Right.
But it was definitely impactful as I moved on. And through everything we went through, the one shining light I had in my life, I will say. And look, I have a great relationship with both my parents. But my father was 100% the provider. I mean, his work ethic was untouchable, and he did anything and everything he had to do to provide for the family. And so I'd like to think anyway that I embody his work ethic, but also his character was amazing. Everybody who knew him as a quality man. And so I think watching that example go through what he went through, as much as it may have broke my heart, it also strengthened me and made me who I am today.
Right. You've openly shared that you felt lost at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back now, what did that season teach you about purpose and resilience?
Yeah, so I graduated Somerville High School and then went into college my first year, tried in tech for business management and failed out. And it really, looking back on it, and in the moment I knew it too, but I didn't put the emphasis and time in that was required to take the next steps. And so I just kind of went through haphazardly and was just lazy. I'm just going to call it that. And so, I learned this through my career, but it absolutely applied to me then. And things I want to teach kids now is plan to fail, or fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened to me.
That's a Zig Ziglar.
Is that a Zig Ziglar?
I believe
Okay.
that's Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't know where you're going, any road in life is going to get you there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. How important was having someone believe in you, especially your wife, Bridget, during that turning point in your life?
Oh, it made all the difference. There's no way I'd be here today if it wasn't for that. In a moment, I battle insecurity issues sometimes, and in a moment where I was not secure about what I wanted to do or what I could be, she was that one voice that was like, yeah, I think you can, and I'll go with you to help you. So she had accompanied me to culinary school, and that was my first jump back into college again. And it's only because I had the courage to go with her that I went into school, loved it, made straight A's, first time straight A student, but I excelled in culinary school and had a great time there, and then had a good career after for a little while.
Great. At what point did you realize that success for you was going to be defined by impact, not titles or income?
Man, we're jumping way ahead, but after I had my own children and I had what I would call a successful career, but in the community there was an opportunity to organize something and fundraise for a family that was going through some medical issues. Once I saw the success of that and how everybody rallied around, I knew at that point that I'm going to provide for my family and I'm going to do what I have to do corporately for my company because that's my responsibility. But all of that was for, that was an obligation that we have to go through in life. But the community aspect and organizing things was where my heart was. And I was like, I just made more of an impact on this community than I have in the past few years. And this is how I want to continue to impact it.
So we're going to dive into what we're really here about, and that's the Beacons.
Yeah.
The Beacons mentoring, which is extremely dear to my heart as I'm part of this group, and it's just amazing. So the Beacons started with a simple conversation at a school event. What was it about that moment that you couldn't walk away from?
So I was on the Dorchester District 2 Education Foundation at the time, and my nickname in Austin Bailey Elementary School was Foundation Dad because I would go give grants and all that, and they couldn't say Staropoli, so that was my nickname. Well, my daughter we attended a daddy-daughter dance, and I just got to know the principal well, and it's always been my nature not to come with problems, but just find solutions. And I remember that was their first year, and I've heard so many impactful things in that first year that they're trying to do from a school position. And so I just asked her, is there anything you need? She thought I meant the Education Foundation, and she complimented us. And I said, no, actually, Mr. Staropoli, Gabriella's dad, is asking you, what can we do for you as a family? And she said, I have a high percentage of children in my school that don't have dads at home. I need a mentoring program. I need help. And I was like, done. I got it. I'll get you 20 guys, And but it was such a desire because really, A, I was driven by wanting to help, but B, I have such a close relationship with my own father, like my father, my grandfather, like those men were such pivotal people in my life. I can't imagine a child going through life without one or the other parent. Like it just was something that was hard for me to fathom. I know it's a real reality, but it does break my heart because there's components in both that we need. So when I thought about young men not having proper male guidance, I wanted to change that.
You spoke that you said you need 20 guys and I'm on it, but you did. You had 20 men commit within a week.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think motivated others to rally behind the vision so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to say I think they truly believed in the mission and they wanted to impact change. But I also think they knew my quality and my character, and I think that meant a lot to me because out of those 20 men, and I'll tell you this, I was the only district parent. The rest of them were guys that didn't have their kids in DD2. They just wanted to help me, and that meant a lot to me, But I don't think you pull a group of guys together like that without them believing in you first.
Correct.
So
100%. What did the early days of Beacons look like before it became what it is today?
It was good. It was amazing, but it was also unorganized. We just went with the flow and kept it casual, which would still be great and worked. But I didn't know at what point it could be something bigger. I just went in with the help of like, we're going to do this for this child. And I didn't have a future in my mind of what this could be. So I will say there was a blessing in it because, we just went in with no agenda and just to go have fun and grow these children. Once you start putting structure and organization around it, it becomes more work, which is fine. It's work you want to do, but I kind of miss those.
Easier.
Easier. It was easier.
So seeing the immediate impact in 2019, did that confirm that the Beacons was something special?
Oh, man, 100%. There were some conversations taking place with some men and children that were impactful. There were some discrete conversations happening about stuff going on in their lives. Then obviously we kept the school in the loop on everything we heard. But that engagement let me know these children don't love having us there, they need to have us there.
Right.
You know, they needed men who were going to talk to them about accountability and responsibility and how to act appropriately and how to conduct themselves as men. Say thank you, yes ma'am, no sir, open doors for ladies, shake hands with a firm handshake, look the men in the eye. You know, that was almost within several weeks we started seeing those changes. And you know, I personally had a student who lost his father weeks before he came to me in a motorcycle accident, and it was just breaking his heart. And you could see the pain in the morning in him every time he came to me. You know, but I gave him a gift one day because he told me he loved basketball, so I brought him a little basketball thing, and just the look he gave me, like, why are you doing this? And I was like, because I care about you. You know, that broke my heart, but it also made me realize, like, I'm here for him, whatever he needs, you know.
Right. And you know, with anything, I mean, there's always going to be challenges with growth, and there's issues that's out of our control. And 2019 was the beginning of a crazy time. COVID. And I'm sure COVID stalled the momentum for many programs, the Beacons being one of them. What kept you committed to bringing Beacons back stronger?
Well, and so I'll tell you, I will say that we didn't experience the stall like others did, and I'll tell you why. Because, again, I told you I'm not a guy that brings problems. I try to look for solutions.
Right.
So I said, okay, we can't afford these children to have this gap right now. I knew what it was like during COVID with my own children in the home. I couldn't imagine what it was like for single parents and other stuff. So I proactively reached out to the school and said, listen, in this absence, do you mind if we write our students emails and pass them through you just to engage them, let them know we care about them, we haven't forgot about them? And they complied, so we had some communication through that. But when we came back, I mean, those kids were just, it was like seeing family on a road trip.
Never skipped a beat.
Never skipped a beat, but the enthusiasm in their eyes, like, you know, we thought you guys forgot about us, and we're like, no, not at all, you know, and it was amazing to have that. And again, we had to go back with masks and some distancing and all, but, you know, to follow protocol, but it was just, man, you really saw in those years of COVID the impact it had to kids like that. And look, my own kids too, right? I see effects today from that. But there were a lot of children who were placed at home that needed to really be in a school structure during that time.
So as Beacons expanded into more schools, what were some of the growing pains you didn't expect?
Yeah, so I do want to give credit. Taylor Summers and Jonathan Patterson were two individuals who came to me and said, how do we do what you're doing at our school? Their family was at Somerville Elementary. I said, get me in a meeting and I will get this going. And they got me a meeting with admin, talked to them. We engaged the community. They brought a group of guys. Then the same thing came up at Newington. The school started at the same time. And I will tell you, this is where the impact goes sometimes wrong, is Newington was kind of set on doing what Newington was going to do their way.
Right.
And I said, well, we have a formula and it works. I would ask that you do it this way. And at the time, who was at the administration there was like, well, this is how we're going to do it. And it fell apart within a couple months. And I knew that was going to happen. So we had to pause. We restarted it again. But in these schools where admin or counselors try to dictate the schedule, like, it has to be every week, 30 minutes a week, same kids. Right. That consistency is the success that we have. There's a lot of great other organizations doing what we do, All Pro Dads, Real Men Read, all that. But the consistency they have is not every week like we are. So, and you've seen it yourself. You go in and see these kids. So when the schools try to change our recipe, the end product never works out the same. Right. So sometimes, look, every school we've been in has been extremely respectful and open to my suggestions. And so we're now all pretty much on the same plane. And
well, I think it goes back to people have to buy in.
Yeah.
They have to buy in. There has to be a trust. It's like going to a championship game, right? You're going to follow the coach. But if you don't buy into the coach, you have a bunch of people playing individually instead of playing together as a team. So when the schools begin reaching out to you instead of the other way around, what did that say about the program's reputation?
Oh, I knew we had it then at that point, you know, because the counselors were going into their district counselor meetings and the word was starting to spread that way. And so I knew every school had a challenge, but every school, and I'm defending the schools in this statement, they were reluctant to conversate with me because everybody's coming to them with some kind of ask, right? And their resources are limited. I totally understand that. But it was hard for me to convey, I'm here to help you. I don't need anything from you. I just want you to let us in, you know. But that was I can understand the skepticism in that. And then I'm sure, you know, my political run for school board probably hindered some of that too.
Right.
But when the counselor started advocating for what we're doing and we started seeing results and referrals drop and behavior improvement, now there's tangible evidence, and they're like, okay, hey, we need you. And so once we got into one and the next, the momentum just kept building for, hey, these guys are amazing.
And this all started out just for young men,
Yes.
youth. And then where did the idea of leading ladies come together?
Yeah.
And why was it important to create space specifically for young women?
Yeah. So I'm not saying this because it's biased. This is actual fact. But my wife and another woman, Sam Waring, approached me and said, hey, and they didn't know this at the time, but they were like, how can we do what you're doing for young ladies? And I said, get me some ladies and we'll get going. But what they don't know is prior to that, I had a lot of females reaching out or posting on our socials saying, how come this is only for men? Why are you not doing this for women? And I said, okay, well, do you want to serve? Well, no, I don't have time. Okay. Do you want me to talk to your girls about their menstrual cycles and their hormones changing and everything?
Right.
Absolutely not. Then I don't. Then we're at a stalemate, right? I need you to volunteer. So when my wife and Sam approached me, we put the word out, and man, I had 65 ladies show up to the orientation meeting. Like that was the biggest.
And that's all. There's a buy-in.
Yeah.
It goes back to trust.
Was
they've seen the product.
100%. There was more women show up to an intro meeting than we had males in total at schools. So they showed up, and we were able to branch out into 4 different campuses for females.
And what did that say to you when you did that for the leading ladies in your first get together? Having 65 women show up, like there was no marketing, there was no campaign, there was no, hey, anybody interested, show up at such and such location. But to see 65 women show up and ready to serve, what did that tell you?
That told me the community was ready to see change. They were ready to see some of these children, find people who are going to invest into them, advise them appropriately, support them. I mean, that's, we talk about helping encourage them, but really support them. All these kids are going on with stuff. Women, and here's the other part. This told me this too. I didn't realize this till after. There were so many more complications with young ladies than with men that I was not aware of, right? When it came to hygiene, I've smelled young boys playing basketball and all. I'm like, they don't know about deodorant.
Right.
Girls' hygiene apparently is way worse. Confidence issues in women, way worse than males. They've got bullying. They've got gossiping, making fun of about their appearances. Girls don't know how to apply makeup right at a young age. And if nobody's advising them at home, then people make fun of how they apply it. So there was a need there just for the security of young girls. We have insecurities as men, and sometimes life tells us suck it up and keep moving.
Correct.
With girls, that turns into larger issues. And so the women showing up in that movement like that let me know there's been a problem for quite some time, and they've just been looking for somebody to start something.
And how many ladies do we currently have?
Man,
or
I don't know the number off the top of my head. I would probably venture to say it's in half at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out the number of like 80, 85.
That's
women.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I want to touch on something that I believe is a cornerstone of our collective success, and that's engagement. Fostering positive relationships, one child at a time. It's, for me, and I can speak on behalf of everybody that's in the school affairs unit along with me with what we do, is we're bought in. We get it. We engagement is everything. And with that being said, why is mentorship so critical in today's world, especially for students who may lack consistent role models?
This is going to be my personal opinion. I don't want to speak for anybody else in the organization, but we see a lot of kids today who are left to just devices, and the devices themselves are toxic. We battle it in our own home. But the lack of accountability is certainly different. You and I grew up in a different generation of accountability and punishment than today's society. And so you're kind of seeing that ripple through. You add in some of what the world is feeding into these kids, from music to movies and all, and violence, and it's acceptable. You as an officer probably see a lot of things occur with young generation that we didn't see then. When I grew up, you fought somebody, and if you lost, and you shook hands, and that was it.
You moved on.
Nowadays, it seems that kids want to use guns as the answer. Correct. Because there's no accountability there. They can just easily shoot at somebody, and there's no value in taking that life. Where us, when you fought, you had to deal with going home to tell your parents you fought. Right. And then if you lost a fight, depending on your parents,
then you had to explain why did you lose.
Exactly.
Right.
So I could imagine using a weapon and telling my parents I used a weapon. They would put me in the ground before anybody else would.
And you just touched on accountability. And that's one thing that I stress here with the students at Rollins Middle School of Arts. And a couple episodes ago, I had Sheriff Richardson on. And I know us as an agency, we really, and he stresses, transparency, accountability, and unity. And I tell the children here and the youth, like, it's okay to make a mistake, but it's holding yourself accountable. And how did you recover from the mistake? When you realized what you did was wrong, whether it be studying for an exam or you didn't study for an exam or a basketball game, and you didn't practice or you didn't give it your all, hold yourself accountable. Yeah. What do you need to do for the next practice? Yeah. And not making excuses. So I'm really, really big on accountability. Even within our unit, we're held to a different standard. We have to show up. We have to be consistent in everything that we do. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to lead by example. Our youth need to see that. So it's so important to me about the engagement, the accountability. And what does meaningful engagement with you actually look like in Beacons? Not just showing up, but showing up the right way.
So I want to take a step back for 1 second. I'll answer that. But the accountability piece, the other thing it deters is the entitlement mindset.
Correct.
When there's no accountability, these kids become entitled, and that's where you see them lashing out at teachers and talking back or threatening them. When you hold them accountable, that deters some of that action, which is not a way we were raised,
Right.
But the impact, I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What does meaningful engagement with you actually look like in the Beacons?
Yeah, so showing up every week is okay. I see some, to be transparent, I see some guys just show up and kind of go through the motions, and you're showing up, I'll give you credit, but what I really want to see from some of these men is, and when I see engagement look right, is you are actually hearing what they're telling you. You're listening to them, and your content that you respond with is built off of that, or your actions the following week are built off of what you just heard, right? So if there's a struggle with a child and you hear that, the next week you're going to come with something that's going to help him with that struggle. Or if he's got an interest in basketball, then you're going to bring something to him out of the blue just to say, hey, buddy, I saw this and I thought of you. That's going to let them know this guy is invested in me. He's not just checking a box,
And I... to the folks listening, we're not to take the place, or this is my opinion, we're not to take the place of a family member. We're just there to give an extra ear, let the children know, the youth know that there's somebody else that they can speak to. There's others that do care. Yeah. There's others that want to make sure that they're successful in life, that have the resources for them to be heard.
1,000%. I even tell everybody we have a policy, no politics or religion, unless a child asks you a question, but we have to respect, we may not agree with it, it may not be right, but we have to respect their parents' role and what they're doing in their life. We're not there to parent the child, we're just there to encourage them and support them.
Correct. How do you teach mentors the importance of consistency and trust when building relationships with our students?
I don't know that I teach as much as I just convey. I mean, to me, the reason we are successful is the people invested. I feel like it's a heart posture. They have it in their heart to want to serve and give. So that's already the hardest part to overcome. But the consistency piece, I'm just very brutally honest with them and tell them, they're not disappointing me. They're not disappointing our board members. Right. They're disappointing that child who's going to walk into a room and see a room full of kids with their partners engaging, and they're going to be left alone. And imagine that gut feeling,
Right.
And, so.
And there's times, with what I've done, haven't made every meeting, but I make it a point to reach out either the next day. Granted, I'm in a location where my mentee is right next door. So it's easier for me than it would be for other mentors to possibly reach out. But I make it a point to let them know, hey, this is what happened, especially with what I do for a living. In the mornings, things come up.
Right.
But it's letting them know that I just didn't abandon you, and explaining to them why consistency matters, even though things do come up in life that's out of our control.
Yeah.
So I'm really open communication. Communicate with your mentee.
Proactive communication.
Yes.
And I used to travel for my job, so I've not made everyone, but when you tell a child, hey, I won't be here next week because I have this trip coming up for work, or hey, I won't be here because of this, they get it. But when you just don't show up, you've become another source of disappointment in their life. So when you communicate, and you may even tell them, would you like to join Mr. So-and-so and his child? Do you want to just stay in class? And if they choose to, well, here, how about this activity? Why don't you work on this? And when I come back, we'll talk about it. Now you've engaged them again, and you've shown them, okay, he's going to do this because he wants to see me when he gets back. but just not showing up is not acceptable.
Right. And in your experience, what do young people need most from adults right now?
An ear. They just need somebody who's really, truly going to hear them out and understand them. And listen, this is an unpopular comment, but I'm going to say it. Kids need discipline. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying beat children. That's not the point. But the point is, some of these kids lash and act out because nobody's paying attention to them. So when they're disciplined, as much as they may hate getting in trouble, they do appreciate the acknowledgement of somebody's actually watching me and caring about me. And, okay, I've got somebody invested in me. So showing up and holding them accountable, keeping them responsible, supporting them, encouraging them, all those things, they need that. That's what a male or a female can do for them when they show up every week.
I want to transition into some impact and success stories with the Beacons. And without naming names, can you share a moment that truly affirmed the mission of the Beacons for you?
Yeah, we have and I kind of shared this out there a little bit, but I won't mention names, but we have a lead at another campus who is also the SRO. But he had a mentee in his group, and he does a great job with the group they have, and he has a group of young men that would probably some of our more problematic, they're middle school age. But we lost a mentee. He passed away walking his dog. His heart just stopped. He had a heart defect at birth, and you can tell they were all broken up. But he was there for the family, and then reached out to us, and we got some money together and gave to the family. I'll pay for funeral expenses, but I hated the situation that occurred, and it broke my heart to see all this stuff around the environment. But he came from a split home, so mom and dad were both engaged by the SRO and all. But knowing that the Beacons was there for him when we could do to hold him accountable, but also there for the family when they needed it most. Right. That's when I knew that we were more than just a weekly meeting. Like, this was a group that was invested in all areas of this kid's life. Yeah.
Trust and bought in.
Right.
How have you seen mentorship change not only the students, but the mentors themselves?
The thing I love about this program is it generally tends to do more for the mentors than the mentees.
It does.
It opens up their hearts and exposes them to things outside their home, and they become even more invested. So I'd love to see the transformation in the mentors. But the other blessing has been seeing how some of the mentors are getting creative about trying to organize some field trips, trying to take some opportunities to show kids about things outside the classroom, like, hey, you've expressed you have interest in this. Well, we're going to bring somebody in to talk to you about how to take that path.
And in saying that, I know one of the SROs that's in our school affairs unit for one of the middle schools. They actually, I want to say, their group brought in with their mentees the young men in changing tires. Mm-hmm. And took a tire and showed them how to change a tire. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's engagement.
It is.
It's not saying that these children or youth don't see that at home, but it's you're involved. Yeah. You're engaged. We do things. The mentors or the Beacons, they do things. It's not just sitting in a cafeteria. Like, some of these groups really think outside of the box to get these kids engaged on something that they're going to need to utilize as they grow older.
Yeah.
In life and have their own families.
Well, so great point. And I was just going to say, before you said all that, so I need to know how to change a tire and do all that for my own benefit, right? But now I have 2 daughters. And my daughter called me a couple weeks ago and said, Dad, my tire is getting low. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, meet me at this gas station. I'm close to it. Right. And so she got there. And I gave her my truck, and I dealt with her car and put air in it. And I noticed there was a big old screw in it. And so put some air in it and fixed it flat and drove around. And then the next day I had to take it to get serviced. But if I didn't know what to do, my daughter would have been stuck on the side of the road, and I'd had to go to her, and we had to wait on a tow truck and all this other stuff. But I have kids now that I have to look out for. So that skill set that helped me at one point is now going to help me take care of my daughters.
How do schools and families respond when they see the impact of consistent mentorship?
They're grateful. We've had some mentors who were invited by families to go to dinner to say thank you, attend a child's birthday or award ceremony. I think at first parents may be a little bit apprehensive because they're like, what's this about? Is my kid in trouble? Right. But then when the plan starts working and they start seeing their child change at home, there's always a lot of gratitude that falls in. And we try to keep things discreet, but, families are good.
I mean, I know when I was in school, we didn't have a Beacons, but in high school, I was making a left when I probably should have been making a right. Mm-hmm. And there was a school resource officer there. His name was Dave Hall. And to this day, at that moment, I didn't understand. But Dave just kept showing up.
Yeah.
Just showing up. What are you doing? My classes, I would leave class and there would be Officer Hull in the hallway. Hey, Wes, what are you doing? Where are you going? You need to get there. And just that push. Not that I didn't have that at home, but I was going through a time where I was trying to identify myself. I was trying to, who am I? Sometimes we get sucked in the wrong crowd. We didn't have social media issues at that point, or at that time. But Dave Hall always was there. And looking back now, like an SRO, I'm not on a beat anymore on the streets, right? My beat is in hallways. I'm a counselor, crisis negotiator. And I look back, and was saying that, I look back at what Dave Hall just did with me. At that moment, not realizing what he probably prevented from me making a wrong turn as I got older in life. Crimes, drugs, like there's no stat book that's going to say, I spoke to this child today and it prevented him from doing something 10, 15, 20 years down the road. We're never going to know that. But I do thank Dave for just taking that extra, making sure I was doing what I was supposed to do. Because I really, really, really do think Dave kept me on the right instead of the left. Without ever thanking him or knowing what he was doing at the moment, but to look back now and say, where would I be if it wasn't for him just to take that few seconds? Hey, you good?
Yeah.
Do you need anything? How's your grades?
Yeah.
Kind of, so I'm, and today I see myself, and I think that's why, engagement is the cornerstone of our collective success, and I get it. I get down on their level. I'll sit down on the gym floor. We all have bad days. It's okay to have a bad day. But I want our youth, and I'm so passionate about this, I want the kids, especially here at Rollins Middle School of Arts, I'm here for you. And it's okay. We can shut the door. We can cry together. We can let the tears flow. But I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to know that's listening to this, your voice matters.
100%.
And, with that, I'm going to ask you.
Well, I want to say real quick, you gave an incredible example of this gentleman in your life, and I've taught about my dad, but the two that are still very relevant in town that were mine were Johnny Leviner and Coach Sam Clark, or Principal Sam Clark, but I didn't know them well when I was younger, and they got to know me, and, Johnny actually became a very important figure in my life, but those two gentlemen, same thing, they engaged me, and I don't know what I did to deserve it, and I'm so grateful for it, because I was with the wrong crowd when I moved down here, and I was appealed by, the troublemakers, because I was in this new school of 400 kids. I had no idea who everybody was, and anyway, they just took this investment in me and just continually followed up with me and held me accountable. And it was so impactful. I didn't realize it until later on in my life, unfortunately, but I still talk to these men today. Sam Clark would randomly drop me a message, "Mate, you got a beautiful family. I'm so proud of who you are." And that means the world to me, even as a 44-year-old man. And Johnny Leviner and I still talk regularly, but those two men were that gentleman to me.
Yeah, it's incredible. And as a matter of fact, I'll go back to Dave Hall again. Back then, I'm going back a little bit of time. The city, or I'm from South Florida. The agency had what they called was an Explorer program, which was like cadets. And I got involved with that. And at first, when I got involved with that, I was kind of like, what am I doing here? It's not like 21 Jump Street. Like, I don't want to, I'm not, people are going to label me as not being, but it was the best thing that I'm so thankful. And it was just, it's great. And I'm sure there's a lot of the mentors probably at right now with the younger don't realize what impact that they really are having on our youth.
Sure.
Until years down the road.
100%.
And I'm gonna move on from that. And faith is a foundation for you. How does it guide your leadership and decision making with Beacons?
Man, and this has been more impactful in this last couple of years for me. But Christ is my compass. I'm big into my faith, and I understand all the blessings He's bestowed upon me. And because I look back and see how life could have been and how it is now, but it helps me because I try, Frank of old used to have a temper and would just be angry and have all kinds of issues. But I understand as I walk, the example we're supposed to set forth, and that's why I chose the Beacons as the name. Because when we had this group, it wasn't the Beacons originally. It was the Tiger Buddies, at Austin Bailey, and then Newington was something. And so as we grew, I knew we needed a corporate name. But it really meant something to me. I was like, how do we display our intent and our motivation behind this from a corporate name? And so I kept thinking in Christ, we're called to be the salt, the light, and then I was like, ooh, lighthouse, let's do lighthouse. And then I wanted something a little bit better than lighthouse. And then I was like, the beacons, it's a beacon of light, bringing in safe harbor, And so it just fit so well. So leading all through this, I understand, and I try to be more of a Christian and Christ-like in my decision-making and realize I have my views and opinions as Frank Staropoli. We don't cater to every child who may fall in that category, right? But it doesn't matter. The Christian in me calls me to say, hey, we're going to treat each child the same.
Right.
We're going to lead each child the same, regardless of what they think of you or your views or anything like that. We're going to give them all love and grace. And so when I lead and organize things for this group, I want every child of every background, culture, whatever, to feel like they're loved by every one of us. That's important to me because at the end of the day, that is the most important part. And I say, politics taints everything. I hate to say that, but politically, people get all wrapped up.
They do.
At the end of the day, we just need to look at these are children. It even says biblically you have to protect children. And so these are children. They need proper guidance. It's only going to benefit our community to ensure that they're walking a good path. And so I definitely use that part of my Christian foundation to guide this group when I try to think of what we can do next.
You often say, leave it better than you found it. How does that philosophy shape the culture of Beacons?
Yeah, I mean, every time we go in to meet with these children, the outcome is, did that kid walk away from you better today than he did yesterday, And so whenever you're talking to them, don't demean a decision he made. Don't make them feel guilty about something else, Pour into them, hold them accountable, but support them, Well, quick example, there was a child that I was sitting with. He was one of our McKinney-Vento students, which means homeless. Great kid, just good heart, happened to just be with the wrong crowd. Never started the issues, but was somehow always around the issue. Never approached anybody in the hallway, wouldn't start fights, but sometimes it came to him. And there was an incident where there was this girl whose mother passed away, and this boy was taunting her, and so she hit him. Well, the boy hit her back. So my kid dropped his book bag and started wailing on the boy. And so he was up for expulsion. I wrote him a letter. The school was going to give it to him for me, and I said, hey, as a father, I applaud what you did, sticking up for a young lady. No man should ever put his hands on a woman. And as a man, I understand why you did what you did. But as a mentor, I'm telling you, you now have to be accountable to your actions. You put your hand on somebody else. So when you go to your hearing, don't lie. Don't try to tell a story. Own what you did. Own why you did it, and wait for your consequence. But that's our responsibility as a man.
Correct.
They had mercy on him, and he came back to school. The school wrote something on his behalf and all, And so we talked about it when he came back, and there was an understanding there. I get what you did and why you did it, and I appreciate that as a father.
Right.
But we don't put our hands on people unless we're ready to deal with the consequences.
Correct.
And I think that dug into him, and I think it was a fruitful conversation. So out of that conflict, he walked away better. And that is when I say leave it better than you found it. I didn't want to just tell him, hey, man, good job. That was
right, of course, right.
There had to be accountability on the end of the understanding of it. And I think he really appreciated me because, unfortunately, man, he has been in and out of school and different things, but every time I've seen him, even in town, I'll drive around sometimes and he'll be at a grocery store. He approaches me with a hug, and I ask him if he's okay, if he needs anything, and we have a bond whenever I see him. I just wish I could be more around his life to help him.
Right. What would you say to someone who feels called to mentor but doesn't think that they're qualified?
I would tell them it's false. I think absolutely qualified. If it's in your heart, then you've already hit the hardest part. If you're called to do it, just make the jump. We can work out schedules and we can figure out stuff that gets you there. But from a heart posture, the hardest part of it is saying to yourself that I want to do this. If you got over that, you're good.
If you could leave one message for our youth that's listening today, or maybe listening, what would it be?
Just know that you are loved and supported. You have a group of people out there fighting for you, and that we want to make sure that you are the best you can be, because you're only going to make our community better. We're going to do everything we can to help you and protect you, but we also need your help too. You have to be invested with us. So.
And before we close, I want to ask you, where is the Beacons going to blossom out within the state of South Carolina, stay in the Low Country? Do you see the Beacons expanding outside of the state of South Carolina? Do you see this amazing group, the Beacons? Do you see it going outside of the state of South Carolina someday?
Absolutely. Right now, Berkeley is next in our sights. We have a couple of schools interested. But 2 years ago, we were on the brink of opening one in Florida. We had somebody reach out that was going to start for us. He got transferred for his job, which took him out of the area. There was somebody in New Jersey that reached out with interest. I'm in the Rotary Club. I absolutely think this has the potential to be a Rotary-style situation where we are in every state, every district, as long as we have willing volunteers. So
Good to know. So, in closing, Frankie, if Beacons were to be summoned up in one word or phrase, what would it be and why?
Be the light. Every day as a Christian I walk, I try to be a reflection of Christ, in my opinion. And I don't always succeed at that. I struggle. But light draws you in. We look at insects with those lights, right? They're drawn in. Right. So if you're the light to some kid in the darkness, you can draw them out and bring them and hopefully change their life for the better. So that was a line we came up with a while ago, and it's always been on my heart, but be the light.
Good stuff. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity, man. I appreciate you.
As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Engagement with our youth is not optional. It's essential. Beacons mentoring is a reminder that real change doesn't come from programs alone. It comes from presence, from adults who are willing to show up, listen, and stay consistent when it matters most. It's about building trust, creating belonging, and letting our young people know they are seen, valued, and capable of more than they sometimes believe. What Frankie and the Beacons mentors are doing goes far beyond mentoring. They're shaping confidence, restoring hope, and planting seeds that will grow long after today. If we want stronger schools, safer communities, and a better future, it starts with relationships. It starts with engagement. And it starts with each of us deciding to leave things better than we found them. To our students listening today, I want you to know this. You matter, your story matters, and there are people willing to walk alongside of you. Thank you for tuning in to the Watchman Podcast. Stay engaged and never underestimate the power of showing up for our youth. So until next time, take care.